Hi, I'm Luke with Out of Darts. Today we are checking out the Siege-50. This is the second offering in the brand new lineup from Hasbro, Nerf Hyper. Couldn't be more excited about a new lineup like this, so let's get going. Before we get going on this video, I do want to say that my thoughts are my own. However, all of these blasters did come from Hasbro's PR team. I did not pay for them, so I do want that to be transparent. Those of you that have been watching long enough know that I really don't care who sends me what. You're going to get my opinion, whether they like it or not. Hopefully this won't be the last time they send me stuff. Nerf Rival has been out for nearly 6 years now, and it really is what kicked off my modding career and this entire business. I designed the Proton Pack and the Hurricane Blaster, and I've always liked the ball feeding because A, they were newer, and B, they were, spheres. So there's easier, creative ways to feed them, store them, and get them into the blaster. This is the Siege-50. The Siege-50 is the medium-sized, medium-priced blaster in the new lineup. We got 3 blasters right off the gate, and it's a pump-action 50-round capacity blaster. Very simple springer, pump and fire. And we're already on to problem number 1. And I swear I'm not exaggerating. This is the same problem I had at home when first playing with it. I pretty much every time using it have had problems firing it. There we go. So if you're not getting those balls to roll in there just right, they do seem to have a tendency to jam. I'm hopeful that as the rounds get a little dirtier and less tacky and sticky, that they might get a little better. I think as you're running around playing, you probably will move these into position a little bit better, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video here. The blaster is very cool styling. It's very 90s style colors. I love the bright colors. I think it's a really great option, and it feels very good in the hand. Ergonomically, it's very comfortable. The grip is very well sized for even my large hands. I think if you had extra large hands, probably not so much, but generally I find it to be very comfortable. I probably will change the style of this grip in the modding in the future, but for now it is very, very nice out of the box. One of the better offerings I have seen. The injection mold on this blaster is very nice, a little bit more premium than some of the other offerings. We've got some nice carbon fiber-like textures on both the grip, the handle, and on the side panels, and it makes for a very nice look aesthetically. I hope it actually still shows up when you paint it, because I think it might not. Ultimately, when you do choices like this on an injection mold, it's going to actually cost more to do the mold, because that texture has to be put into the actual mold itself. The blaster feels very solid. It's got slam fire, so you can in theory slam fire if you get it to actually if you get it to feed properly. Nerf also released a couple accessories for this blaster, including reload pods, 100 rounds. These come in at $20 a piece. That's 20 cents per round, so keep in mind this is a pretty expensive premium offering even compared to Rival. These can clip on either of the rails, which in this blaster is actually a pretty good configuration. I could definitely see just pulling that off, opening up the top, dumping this in the right way. Obviously I could use some practice, but it's certainly doable, and it's a nice way to store them. On some of the other blasters, I don't think the storage of these rounds is as convenient. I would certainly put them on pods in my pocket or in a holster of some sort. They also released a full face shield, which I could see for nice kids being nice. It protects you from getting a ball, in your mouth and potentially swallowing it or something like that, because these are quite small. The ammo itself, I will do another whole video on covering my thoughts on this and where I think this is going to go, but suffice it to say, it is extremely squishy. It is much more rubbery than it is like a foam. It's kind of like some sort of TPU, but a very interesting material. I do think these are going to be incredibly durable, and I think they're going to wear better than the Rival balls do. The Rival balls tend to shred and a lot of dust comes off of them, and I think these are going to do a little bit better in the long term. They are heavier and denser, so they could in theory fly farther. Certainly the stock blasters do perform better than any of the rival counterparts in their stock configuration. Now, what I'm really excited to see is what happens when we upgrade the spring and tune some other things on the blaster. So that's going to be fun. The Siege-50, of course, comes with 40 rounds, but it can hold 50. I can only assume this was a cost savings measure. This blaster comes in at $40, not including this pod, of course. So it's a bit of a mid-range option. I was trying to compare it to the most obvious rival blaster, and it's kind of a mix-up. Here we've got the Artemis with some upgrade parts, obviously, but this is probably fairly close as far as size, performance, what you get. This is one of the more popular rival blasters of all time, especially towards the first half, the first 3 years of rival. So I think this is a good one to compare it to. However, this is a 30-round blaster and was not a hopper, so there are some dissimilarities there. On the other side, I think it kind of resembles the Atlas quite a bit. And this is like a long-forgotten rival blaster at this point because this is just Jam City. This is probably one of the most disastrous blasters that Hasbro has released as far as mechanics go and reliability. This thing jammed in its stock configuration, it jammed in its upgraded configuration. It's just got, the gears really do cause problems. And those jamming and feed issues might be rearing their head again here. Now, I'm optimistic that as I get to play with this more, that I'll kind of get a better feel for how much you need to shake the blaster to feed those balls in. But there's definitely a feed problem going on here. I also noticed that Aaron Esser did a video on this blaster, which I was keen to watch, and he clearly had problems firing his as well. So I don't think it's an isolated incident. The performance of this blaster is nothing short of stellar, and that's at least when we're talking about a stock ball firing blaster. Now, you talk about something like the Nexus Pro or the Aeon Pro and even the Dart Zone Pro Mark II, and let's just say those guys are still in another level. I mean, if you're shooting 150 feet per second out of the box, it's going to beat this. But we are seeing 117 feet per second average for this blaster over our controlled chronograph, and that's very impressive. It's very noticeable. The time to target is much quicker than with the rival blasters at 95-ish FPS, and the ammo type is definitely helping that as well. I do think that once these are modified, they're going to fire quite a ways. Accuracy, however, does not seem to be an improvement upon rival. The balls definitely tend to veer one direction or another. This blaster, the Siege-50, does fire farther, a little bit farther than the Rush 40, and I do think that's because of the hop up here. They both have the same FPS out of the barrel, but this one has a small hop-up tab at the top to create backspin. And you can see this when you fire the two side by side. I'll try to show a shot here in the video outside if it's not raining, but the Rush 40 balls tend to kind of drop pretty quickly, and the Siege-50 go up just a hair. The nice thing about what I'm seeing on the hop-up here so far is that unlike rival, the hop-up isn't overly pronounced. It seems to keep more like just a little bit of extra gain. I will be curious to see how that turns out when you mod the blasters. Certainly a lot of the rival blasters, when modded, have a huge arc up and then back down. You almost need to trim the hop-up to make them perform correctly. Now let's talk quick about price, because at first I was like, $40, that seems like too much. Then I went into my time machine and went back to the beginning of Rival. When Rival came out, we got a Zeus that could shoot 12 shots, a 12-round magazine, and if I'm not mistaken, it was $49.99. Now, this is a electronic blaster, so that was the flagship, and we'll compare that a little bit more with the Mach 100. The second blaster in that initial Rival lineup was the Apollo at $25. This was a pretty janky blaster. You had to top prime it, which made it terribly inaccurate. It was extremely loud. It kind of ringed in your ear as you would fire it. And the grip wasn't great. You know, you had mag fed through the grip. But at $25, $40 is sounding like a much, much better deal for 30 rounds of ammo instead of 12, and a much more competent blaster. That said, the blaster does have some quirks which really are the main reason I just could not give this a solid rating. I think it's a real return to form, as I mentioned in my other video for Hasbro. This is a much, much more competitive and more compelling offering than Elite 2.0 and Ultra. It just hurts me to look at those two walls. We have them off camera here, and I really don't like them. So take that. This is not a perfect blaster. There's definitely some stuff going on with the potential jamming and misfires, which you've seen in the video already, but it is still a pretty compelling offering, and from right out of the box, a lot of kids are gonna have a lot of fun with this. I wouldn't recommend this for households with small children, and I would be really, really careful when you're outdoors playing in public spaces to make sure that you're not leaving these behind as actual garbage. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. We're gonna have a lot of content coming up around Hyper. I've got reviews for all three of the blasters. We've got a video just on the ammo. We've got a video on the nut gatherer because we got the new one, and surprise, surprise, it works. And then lastly, we'll be getting into modding to these as soon as possible and offering a whole range of parts for them. Until next time, I'm out of darts. Let's get right to it.